Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Diah Wulandari. I am from PBI 1 2018. Today I will explain about my seminar on research proposal from chapter 1 until chapter 3. The title of my proposal is Improving Listening Comprehension by Western Song for Newcoming Students of English Education Study Program of Islamic State University of Raden Fatah, Palembang. So, this title will explain about improving listening comprehension by Western Song for newcoming students of English Education Study Program. And then I will explain from chapter 1 about introduction. This introduction consists of research background, research problems, research objectives, and then research significance. Okay, the first one of introduction is research background. Many foreign cultures is entering Indonesia. One of the cultures entering Indonesia is entertainment. So the example of entertainment entering Indonesia is Western songs. So there are so many Western songs is popular in for teenagers. For the example of the title of the Western song is Christina Perri, 1,000 Years, and then Bruno Mars with the title of Talking to the Moon, and then Westlife, Beautiful in White, and there are so many. The title of Western song is popular for teenager. The popular Western songs is very popular for teenager because in this era there are many teenagers listen Western song in Indonesia. And then according to Peraturan Menteri Pendidikan Nasional Republik Indonesia number 327, English is regarded as the first foreign language in this country that must be learned by the students from primary school until university. It means English is a very important subject at every level of education. So English is very important. So if we want to learn, we have to get the formal education, such as from primary school until university. And then there are 4 skills in learning English. There are listening, reading, writing, and speaking. So listening is one of the important skills in learning English. And then how about the research problems? The research problems based on this title, the first one is there any significant improvement on newcoming students of English Education Study Program of Islamic State University of Raden Fatah, Palembang by Western Song in listening comprehension before and after treatment? And then the second research problems is how far Western song can affect the improvement of students' listening comprehension. And then the third part is research objectives. The first one is to know there is any significant improvement of newcoming students of English Education Study Program of Islamic State University of Raden Fatah, Palembang by Western songs in listening comprehension before and after treatment. And then the second research objectives is to know how far Western songs can affect the improvement of students' listening comprehension. Those are the research objectives of this title. And then the fourth part of introduction is research significance. The first is for future researches. It is expected that this will be the reference and what is the media that we'll use when the research and then want to improve listening comprehension. And then for English teachers, the research can be a reference in learning, so it can provide solutions when teaching is too monotonous. And then the third is for the students, it is expected that this research can help them get the information and reduce their brain about listening is hard and bored. With this research, students can enjoy and happy when learning English, especially in listening. And then now I will explain about chapter 3 about literature review. The first one I will explain about what is listening. According to Rubin in Jason and Brown 2001 on page 3, listening is a vigorous method that during written listening choose and interpret data which written from sense modality and visual clues. And then the second definition of listening from experts from Tomlinson 1998, listening includes active listening, which feeds on the foresight comprehending and understanding the message content as an act of sympathetic understanding of the speakers. Those are the definition of listening based on the experts. And then now is the aim of listening. In listening, there are two main classes of aim listening. There are interactive and transactional. For interactive purpose convey social reasons of communication like chatting, a celebration. And then the second aim is transactional. It is employ the precise exchange of data like to follow instruction. This aim from Brown and George 1983 on page 1. And then types of listening. There are three types of listening. The first one is active listening, the second is critical listening, and the third is content listening. Active listening is after listening we have to give feedback such as question after listening. And then the second is critical listening. For the listeners, they have to think critical when listening. And then the third is content listening. Content listening, if listener heard about the something, and then they have to make a summary about what they have heard. And then the next is difficulties in learning listening. According Underwood 1989, organized the most important issues as follows: the difficulties in learning listening. The first one is lack of management over the speed at the speaker speak. And then the second, not having the ability to induce things recurrent. And then the third is the listener's restricting vocabulary. And then failure to acknowledge the signals. And then how about Western songs? Western songs, based on Roget's 1918, state that music will describe the sentiments of heart, serving to form emotional connections. This one is the example of Western song, the definition of Western song. And then the next one is factor causative to listening of Western song. Based on the common factors, the first one is how to talk with sensible pronunciation. And then the second is improve vocabulary. The third is knowing concerning grammatical. And then the fourth is can speak English very little by little. And then the second factors based on Kill 2015 on page 4. The first one is using new vocabulary, idioms, and expressions. The second is using an accent of the singer. And then the third is using synchromic linguistic and new structures. And then the next is comprehension of songs. The first one is making inference listeners infer for deeper the means. And then the second is retelling or summarizing ideas. And the third is determining main plan, make a case for by notice the most plain. And then this title have previous studies. The first one from Cindiana on her research in 2018 with the title English Songs is Rising Listening Ability for College Kids of Sophisticated 11 Multimedia System of SMK Mandiri Pontianak in school year 2017 until 2018. The result is English songs as media help students to get pleasure from listening by exploitation English song. And then the second previous study from Agung in her research in 2017 with the title The Effectiveness of Exploitation English Ability, a quasi-experimental study at the 8-year students of MTS Hidayatul Anam Pasar Minggu, Jakarta Selatan. From his research, the result is teaching listening comprehension makes students relax and might perceive simply. And then I will explain about chapter 3, research methodology. The research design and methodology. From this research, use quantitative methods and use experimental research as the research design. According to Creswell 2002, experimental research, the description of analysis, what will be or what will occur under carefully controlled condition. So in this case, from research design, experimental research will divide it into two groups as control group and then experimental group. And then the next is objective of the research. The objective of the research is to know is there any significant improvement in listening comprehension by using Western songs before and after treatment. And the other objectives of this research is to know how far Western songs can affect the improvement of students' listening comprehensions. And then, how about the setting, time, and place? This research will take on August until October 2021, and then the place the research held at Campus B Islamic State University of Raden Fatah Palembang, located in Jakabaring. And then the next is population, sample, and sampling. The population according to Vanderstop and Johnston 2009, population is the universe of people to which the study could be generalized, and sample is the subset of people from the population who will participate in current study. So the population of this research is the newcoming students of English Education Study Program in Islamic State University of Raden Fatah Palembang. And then to take the sample, the writer used sampling technique as sampling random technique. Also, the sample of this research is the first is PBI 1 class 10 students, and then PBI 2 10 students too. So the total of this sample is 20 students of English Education Study Program. And then the next is research instrument. Research instrument and then research instrument. So in this research, to collect the information from the students, writer is used a test as an instrument. There are two tests. The first one is pre-test, and then the second one is post-test. Pre-test is, and then pre-test give for control group and experimental group too. And then the second test is post-test. Post-test give after treatments and after explanation, and then post-test give only for experimental group. So pre-test and post-test to get how the differences between before and after treatments. And then the next is technique of data collection. So to collecting the data, there are two tests too, pre-test and post-test. The first one is pre-test. Pre-test was given before treatments and after treatments, and before treatment and explanation, and then for control and then this is give for control and experimental group. And then the students give 15 questions. The students listen the Western songs and then give 15 questions, such as blank speech. The students write the missed word. And pre-test is to know the basic skills of students. And then post-test was given after for experimental, only for experimental groups. And then on post-test, the students heard the Western songs, and then the writer gave 20 questions the kind of question such as blank space, so the students fill the missed word. And then post test is used to check and then score how far the improvement of the students. And then the next is technique of data analysis. So the first important analyze data in this part is normality test. So normality test is the use of normality test is to test the sample of the data is normal or not. So if the significance of score is more than 0.05, the data is normal distributed. And then if the significance score is low than 0.05, normally distributed. So this why very important to test the normality of. And then the second one of technique of data analysis is homogeneity test. After the normality test, the homogeneity test was the test have to test two. And then the objective of homogeneity test is to know the data or samples in both class were homogeneous or heterogeneous. So to test this homogeneity is using statistic application 24. SPSS24. So the use of application SPSS24 is the first one is click analyze in bottom of the tab, and then the second is choose on way NOVA, and then the third is fill variable score on dependent list and fill class variable on vector boxes, and then the fourth is click option and checklist homogeneity of variance test, and then click OK. And then to see the results, if the significance of the data is more than 0.05, is data is homogeneous, and then the significance of data was low 0.05, is the data is heterogeneous. This is the way to check the homogeneous test. And then the third is hypothesis test. So hypothesis test is did after the test normality and homogeneity of the data. Writer test the data to test the hypothesis. There is any significant differences between control and experimental of students in listening comprehension of Western songs. So this test use t-test because the tests have checked by normality and homogeneity, and t-test is used to know Western songs can improve student listening comprehension. To do this hypothesis test, writer used test formula from Anna Sudijono. According to Anna Sudijono, there are so many tests to check any significance differences. The first one is determining mean of experimental group, and then determining mean of control group, determining standard deviation of experimental group, and many others kind of formulas to check the any significance between control and experimental groups. The formula is there's any formula each other steps. And then the last one part of the research methodology is validity. From the sum of the analysis above the data analysis, the result is the assumption is the first, if TO more than TT, the null hypothesis or H0 is rejected and the alternative hypothesis is accepted. So it means that there is any significance differences between after and before treatments. So it means that songs can improve listening comprehension. And then the second one is if TO low than TT, null hypothesis or HO is accepted and the alternative hypothesis or is rejected. So it means that is no any significant differences between before and after treatment and explanation. So the conclusion is Western songs cannot improve listening comprehension. So that's all for my explanation from chapter 1 until chapter 3. I'm sorry for my mistakes. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.